Hey guys, in the shop. Always in the shop, right? This is my 1969 911T. I was driving it in and it started misfiring. And it wasn't like it seems a little worse than I expected. So we're gonna get into this and try to figure this out. I hope it's nothing serious, but it feels like it might have a burnt valve. It's definitely all over the place. It's down on power. So let's get into it and figure out what went wrong. Hopefully we can fix it. Be good to test this. I'm gonna start it up. Might not start that great. It's definitely not running. It's not happy. Alright, I don't know if you can hear it. Definitely, you can see it in the engine. It's not happy. So I recently rebuilt the carbs, went through everything, cleaned up here, new belt, powder coated everything, and so new wires, new plugs, new cap, new rotor. I went through the whole thing. So tune-up wise and mechanically, it's pretty sound. So something happened in here driving into work this morning. So let's figure it out. I'm just gonna test on the distributor cap here. All right, got you set up a little better now that I can't breathe in here. Sorry if the traffic's loud. Highway road right there. So I got this grounded here. We're just gonna test. You hear it bog down. You know that's firing. That's firing. You do the same way to sync the carburetors too. Nice little trick. Just always make sure you have a good ground. Alright, let's see. Yeah, that's... Yeah. That didn't bog down. Might have two valve plugs. Nothing there. That I believe that's 6. You guys hear anything there? I got nothing there. So we got 2 valve plugs. We got 6 and I believe number 2. 6 and 2. That would explain why it's running terrible. So I think the best thing to do is shut this thing off before I die. It stinks in here. I think the best thing to do is pull number 2 and number 5 and number 6 and do a compression test on those 2. See if we have compression in those cylinders. Be 2 there. Let's pull that out and see what we got. Alright, so we found out that number 6 and number 2 aren't firing, so we're going to pull that plug out and see if we even get a spark at the plug. And then we'll do a compression test. So, hopefully, it's not like a burnt valve or something. I'm worried, a little worried about it, to tell you the truth. I'm a little worried there's something serious with this. Just kind of makes me a little nervous, but you never know. just put that there. Can't fall any further. It's wet. It's also pretty clean. I just put these in here. They might have 300 miles on them, so you can see that they're look pretty good. So we'll pull that out, and we're gonna put this on the end of the plug wire here. I'm gonna see if we get spark. Find a good spot to put that thing. I gotta hitch up my my shop buddy, my starting shop buddy here. So give me a sec. We're gonna put the starter button on the starter. So let's see what we get here. We got good spark, so it's not a spark issue. I don't know if you guys could see that, but we had really good spark. So we're gonna do a compression test on that cylinder. Like, we don't need the ignition on for the compression test. There we go. What we get for compression in this cylinder. Let's hope for the best here. 150. That's pretty good. So there's not an issue there. It's got to be something else. I don't know why this is so down on power. That's as high as we're getting there. I'm gonna put the jumper box on it just for now, but yeah, so 150. All right, let's give this a compression test with the throttle wide open. Let me get my starter switch here. My helper. I got a bad ground on the battery. All right, there's that. Wide open. Okay, I lied about the bad ground. Guess we're good. Let's go get the jumper pack. Sorry, guys. All right, let's try this again. Get my starter button, which is, I should just tape to the back bumper, because that way it doesn't really reach very well. They don't make them very long. Should make my own. All right, let's see where this thing's at now that we have a jumper pack hitched to it. We're gonna leave that there. Put it up there. Open the throttle. I think we're good. That's a hell of a compression. So we should be all set in that cylinder. We got to figure out why we're misfiring that cylinder. I did rebuild the carburetors recently. Might be something stuck in there. Maybe it sucked a piece of dirt in, and it's just not getting fuel. The spark plug was wet though, so and that's wet just from being in there. So there's fuel getting in there. I don't know. We'll figure this out. Let's check number 6 while we have this everything out. All right, let's get in there and take that spark plug out. Ooh, that's not a happy camper. And that's a new plug. Fuel and carbon. Big difference. You guys see this? Look at the difference between those two. This was number 2, and this was, I wiped it off a little bit, I shouldn't have, but number 2, number 6. Huge difference on those plugs. So we got something going on. Put that in there so you guys can see it. So we both can see it. How about that? That's perfect right there. Remember, open up your throttle. Oh, we fell off, but I think we're good. The clip fell off the starter button. But again, we're at 190, and it probably would have gone up a little bit more. It would have been the same as the other cylinder. So I don't think we have a valve issue. Just gotta figure out what is going on. Maybe a fuel issue. It's definitely not happy. It was quite the misfire. Let's see if maybe that plug's fouled. Let's check that spark plug that was in there. All right, we're gonna check for spark real quick. Yeah, we got plenty of spark. We got tons of fuel being pumped into this engine right now. So we need to shut that off. We saw the fuel come out of there. So this could be a problem with this. I think we got number 6 has something going on in the carburetor. It's like a carburetor issue. So let's pop this off. It looks like something out of Star Wars, doesn't it? Not a big fan of these, but they say that they're pretty efficient. Oh no, I chipped my paint. A little tricky to get out of here. Especially if you don't take off the vent hose. All right. Pretty sure we got too much fuel going into this carb, number 6. So something's screwed up in there. We gotta take this off. It's kind of a pain to get off, but we gotta do it. You have a stuck float or a needle seat. Or it's pouring out. I just serviced these carburetors. I just rebuilt them. So, and they hadn't been serviced in a long time. You see it's all wet around here? This is all fuel. So something's going on here. I'm wondering if we got something stuck in here. We had that problem on the other side, so we're gonna take this apart and see. We'll open up this, see what's going on in there. $14. I remembered when I walked over there. All right, so I got the top off this. Took that off, and I took... So this goes down in here, and this, as it fills up, pushes this up and shuts the fuel off from going in the carb. And I thought maybe this was stuck, but it's not. It's clear down in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the top of the carb off, see if there's anything going on in there. Maybe a piece of dirt got stuck in there. I'm not totally sure what's going on. We'll blow it out with air and some carb cleaner and see if... I'd like to find something in there instead of just kind of like blowing air and carb cleaner in there and hoping for the best and putting it back together. It's not it's not super labor intensive, but I'd really like to find the issue. I'm sure you guys would too, but this is definitely not the issue. This seems to be working fine, so we're gonna go pull the top of this off. I had all these off too. These are super clean. I didn't change a fuel filter on this car. It looked pretty clean. It looked pretty new. I doubt it sucked something in and got stuck in here. I think it has something to do with the float. I'm gonna pull the top of that carb off and get a look-see. What do we got going on? Yeah, we got a stuck float, and this one was the one that was kind of crushed and funky, and it must have a hole in it. It's not floating. It is definitely not floating. This one's floating. That one is not. I don't know if you can see that. See how this one's floating and this one's sitting down on the bottom, so it's not going all the way up and shutting off the fuel. So what that does is so this floats up, and where this goes in there hits right here as that goes up and closes this off and doesn't allow fuel to come in the car. So as it gets lower, it opens it up and lets fuel come in the carburetor. This one is sitting down on the bottom for some reason, so I gotta figure out, maybe that has a hole in it somewhere. I know this is the one that was kind of crushed. It looks like it got smushed, and I don't know if I'll be able to get one of those today. Probably not. Not like you can get that at your local parts store. Hey, do you have a Weber float for some ID40s? Let's get that out of there. It needs a regular screwdriver on the backside. Ew, boober. It's a booger on there. It's quite boogery. And a shorter screwdriver. There we go. See how this is crushed? Smushed in. The other one isn't like that. So I'm thinking not enough air volume in here maybe to get that to float up. So it's dumping fuel down that cylinder, and it must have fouled out that plug. There's no fuel in it. We can actually bend this to get that to sit up higher. So we just really need to just adjust the float, if it will float. It does float. So I think we just need to adjust this, the end of this, and just kind of bend it down a little bit so it kicks up a little bit. So now that will sit up higher. Let's see if that helps. I think it needs to come up a little bit more. So just a touch, just a little tiny bit more.
And it's now floating. Being that it has less volume, because it's crushed, it needs to be adjusted a little bit. Definitely better. You see that it's this one has more fuel in it, because this one was shutting off. There's two of those shut-offs, so this has less fuel in it right now. I'm gonna put a little more fuel in that and see if it comes up a little further. Be right back. All right, you see that? I'm gonna just fill this with some fuel and see if this comes back up. Yes, sir. It's working. See it coming up? There it goes. That's all she needed. A little adjustment of the float bowl. I mean the float. So that was its problem. So we will put this back together. On this side, remember we have that number 2 that's fouling. I think that's not a stuck float because that wasn't pouring fuel into the cylinder. You gotta be real careful about that too, because you can hydrolock these pretty easily with that sort of thing. A little time consuming, but an easy fix. You always want to make sure that these move freely. If you get them and they get stuck, these can get stuck as well, and you have the same problem. So now that will shut that off. Make sure that you have that washer in there. It's an aluminum washer, which is nice because it seals it. Make sure that's sealed. And again, like I said before, you want to make sure that you use a 6-point socket, because for that brass, I believe it's a 16. You want it fit very snug. You don't want to strip those, and then it looks crappy. I think one of them on that side is pretty screwed up. I'm just gonna check this one while we have it, while we're here, just to check to make sure we don't have a problem. Full of fuel. Because the other side that was full of fuel, and it's just bubbling over and just soaking that cylinder, just filling the cylinder with fuel. This one seems good. Had one on the other side when I rebuilt these. The little ball on the end that was actually pushed up, and it was doing a similar thing. This is a little spring loaded. As it gets in there, it pushes up. So that ball was stuck, and this was bent over on the other side. So that was causing a similar problem. It was actually coming up through the vent. All right. Should be good on that side. We got to figure out why that side is not firing at idle. That's the one I've had a problem with since I put this back together. I want to say it's an idle jet issue. So we're going to go over to that side and see if we can figure that out. I know it's not a float issue. It's not pouring out the top and down over the side of the car and onto the ground. So let's go check out this side. All right. Now we're on the other side. I think we have an idle jet issue. So I'm going to pull that idle jet out. Idle jets run right here. This is number 2 right here. I think this is our problem. We should just clean them all. I don't think I pulled them when I did this is going to pour fuel everywhere. Looks like it's plugged solid. You see that? It looks plugged solid. Yep. It's completely plugged. That's fun. Here. You can see what I'm doing. I'm having a great time. Ready? Where's safety glasses? Whee! Woo! It's like a brake fluid fountain. We'll blow some air in that. Clean it out. Some brake clean in there. And then get it nice and clean so it... I think that's our issue. Get some air, blow that out with some air. All right, we're just gonna blow that out with some air. You're gonna see some fluid come out through the top here. That should help. Definitely got an issue there. We'll hit the, put a little air through the idle jet as well. Get that back in there. You always want to make sure that O-ring is in good shape on there too. There's a little rubber O-ring on the end of it. If it isn't, it could be causing a vacuum leak. And that O-ring's pretty good shape. This little rubber O-ring here. It's a little flat on one side, but it's good enough to seal, and it's supple. Supple. Make sure it's not hard as a rock. And you don't need to go super tight with these. Might as well check these others while we have it. Alright, see, that O-ring feels pretty snug. A lot of times the O-ring stays in there. Like that one did. There we go, we got it. This one's already off, so check it, see it for cracks or anything like that. It's got some goop on it, old fuel, but it's pretty good. So we'll reuse that. This one we can see through. The other one had junk in it, so We'll just give it a quick squirt. And rinse and repeat. And we might as well get them all while we have it apart. Well, not apart, but while we're in it this far and have all the tools out and everything.
We'll leave the airbox off. I'll get the rest of them. If I find anything weird, I will let you know.
So I just pulled the number 1. I don't know if you can see that. Try to get that in the view here. And you can see this is the gasket, the O-ring that was in there. It's kind of disintegrated. So that could cause an issue. So I'm going to put a new one on there, put it back together. So I'm going to check the main jet for this number 2 here. I'm sure some fuel is going to come out of here. Yep. I'll put some cloth under there. I don't need to get this fuel all over the place. It's just draining the float bowl. I mean, I had these all apart when I rebuilt them, so, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if something got sucked into them. I mean, it happens. It looks pretty clean. You can see right through it, so I'm gonna just spray it out. Whee! Oh, blast of air. You don't want too much air in there. I really think it was that idle jet. That seemed pretty cruddy. It could have the same problem on this side. Again, you don't have to be super tight, just enough. It's got a little aluminum washer on it that seats pretty good. And since we have this float bowl emptied, we might as well check this one too. Just clean it real quick. Because if something got into the other ones, it got into that one, it probably got into this one too, so might as well. Yeah, they're pretty clean. So I got this all back together now. I cleaned everything. I just might as well, while I was here, I just blew everything out, blew all the air out of those. And then over here, this is all back together. I just got to get the intake back on. I'm just going to run it with just the velocity stacks on there, with the base of the intake. So I can get those put on there. And I did the same thing to this side. I just took all these out, and I replaced all the seals. Actually, the O-rings on these were all old. I didn't want to risk it. They were kind of smushed on the end of the jet. So, and I blew all those out. They were all pretty clean. I wasn't really too worried about them. And then just checked the main jets as well, and they were all pretty clean. Number 6 was fine, actually. I thought maybe that one would have some issues too, but everything on this side was pretty good except for that float. So I think that float's going to fix that side. That jet was kind of gross over there on number 2, so I think that's going to fix that problem. And I'll put it all back together. Thank God it wasn't a valve issue. We're going to start it. find out. I'm pretty sure that's not the issue because the compression was really good.
All right, got the carbs all back together. Put the intakes back on. Spark plugs are back in. Cleaned up the spark plugs. Checked the gap. Should be good. Probably gonna have to prime these a little bit. There's no fuel in there. I can hear them filling. That one stopped. That one stopped and the fuel pump pressurized. That's a good sign. Whoa. Whoa, did you guys catch that? I think there's a lot of fuel in that cylinder. I don't want to hydrolock or bend anything. Well, we'll have to come back to this. I think we got a lot of fuel in that cylinder still, and I don't want to bend a rod or anything like that. So maybe we got to get some fuel out of the cylinders. I thought it would have evaporated overnight, but maybe not. It sounded like I had too much fuel in the cylinder. Kind of stopped. I like the sounds of that. Eek. Just to make sure that woo! A little fire, yeah! What's going on here? What is happening? I don't think we have enough fuel in the float holes. We got it. Sounds pretty good. Idle's got to be adjusted a little bit. Woo! Fire. Got to adjust the carbs a little bit, but it's definitely happier. Better open the door before I die. All the jacks. Now the carb's going to be synced again. And they come back down off idle. Should do this with the linkage. all back together. Air box is back on. I think I got the carb synced. Let's take it for a drive. What do you guys think? I think it's a great idea. Yes. Let's check this thing out. Seems to be running a lot better. Sounds good. Happy. Tweaks, but it's definitely running on all cylinders. There we go. We fixed it. Wasn't a valve issue. It's time to go home. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Tune in next time, guys.